Welcome back, Techies. I'm Mr. Techie here, and this is episode number 3 of the Google Pixel 6a controversy series, where we take every massive piece of criticism towards the Pixel 6a and we test it out. We see if it's accurate or it's inaccurate. Is it true or a bunch of fanboy malarkey? So, first video talks about fingerprint scanners. The controversy around that shouldn't exist. Secondly, episode number 2, we talked about build quality. A53 and Pixel 6a, nearly identical. Make sure you check out those videos. Leave them in the description below. Now, we talk about the third piece of controversy around the Pixel 6a. We are going to be talking about 60 Hertz display refresh rate. So, before we get a little bit deeper into this video, I want to make a little bit of disclaimer, Techies. For those of you who may not be fully aware, there is no feasible way to demonstrate 30, 60, 120, or anything higher, any refresh rate on camera. I'm shooting this video in 1080p and 60 Hertz. You may be watching on a display that is 60 Hertz, maybe higher, but the frame rate of this video is 60 Hertz. So you're going to be seeing a little bit of the difference between 60 and 120 Hertz on camera, but it will not be fully distinguishable. I highly recommend you, Techies, if you want to see a little bit more information about this refresh rate controversy, go to your local Best Buy or carrier store, look at these phones hand in hand. But I'm going to do my best to show you here in person. Alright, Techies, so we got these phones flipped over. We got the Pixel 6 Pro and the 6a here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just unlock them and take a quick look at the displays themselves before we talk about the refresh rate. Because that's also controversy of the Pixel 6a. So obviously you have here an OLED display, very bright, very vibrant. Before the S22 Ultra was announced, honestly, it's one of the best displays I ever saw on a phone. No complaints really. Very clearly seen in daylight, very sharp, fantastic. Can't go wrong with it. Pixel 6a, however, being half the price, has to be about half the quality. So definitely a lot dimmer. Just by seeing how these lights surround it, it does seem a little bit harder to see with all these direct lights on it. Later on, I'm going to be seeing how these phones do outdoors, direct sunlight. But for now, display on the Pixel 6a looks fine. Really, Techies. That's all I can say about it. Just from what I'm seeing right now, it looks fine. Definitely not as vibrant, not as punchy, definitely not as sharp. When I look close, I can kind of see some pixels on the, no pun intended, on the Pixel 6a versus none on the Pixel 6 Pro, and they're both set to the highest resolution. So, I mean, but for half the pricing, is it half the quality display? Definitely not. I'd say about 70% of the display. Anyway, refresh rate. So now, they're both running Android 12. So we're going to be doing some scrolling around and seeing if we can see any difference. Animation speed is very similar, Techies. Let's go here. So that's just that's the app tray. Let's go to a website. All right, Techies, for this test, I put up a very scroll-heavy website, Wikipedia, on both. Both are showing the same exact part of the display, the very top. Both have been refreshed. Both running on Chrome browser. And let's do some scrolling. And Techies, you be the judge of this. You tell me how you feel about the difference. 60 Hertz, 120 Hertz. 6a, 6 Pro. So you see here, I'm trying to keep it as even as possible. And you see that it's definitely, I'm getting to the bottom of the page a lot faster on the 6 Pro. And it's the same exact content, Techies. So 120 Hertz here is absolutely apparent. Someone who's budget focused, they're not going to care too much about this. But us Techies who are used to, who've been spoiled by all these 120 Hertz displays, high refresh rate this, high refresh rate that, high frame rate here, high frame rate there, you will notice it. And it will kind of be straight in the eyes. I definitely noticed going from 120 Hertz display phones to 60 Hertz display phones that it is definitely a little bit strenuous on eyes. So, is it noticeable? 100%. Is it a deal breaker? No. But this phone is $450. 60 Hertz display. Now let's compare it to its Samsung counterpart, the A53. Again, at $450. However, A53 has a big advantage here, 120 Hertz display. So, open up the home screens on these guys and let's take a look at overall display quality. They are both on full, well, nope, there we go. Auto brightness is off on both of them, and it's pretty equal. Brightness, identical. Bezel, actually, Techies, you tell me. They're pretty nice. Chins, almost identical. Yeah, of course we have 6.1 versus 6.3, slightly bigger display on the A53. Bezel are close to identical. They are both 1080p displays, so yes, once you get a little bit closer, you start seeing some pixels. And this video is in 1080p as well. I wouldn't have a preference here, Techies. You tell me in the comments. Do you have a preference just from what you're seeing right now on display? Me, no. Like I said, I'm going to be taking these outdoors, seeing them in sunlight, to see which one I can't see. I can't imagine either of these phones being great with direct sunlight, but we'll see. So, as I'm scrolling around, it's not even fully Techies, unfortunately, because very different skins of Android. We have stock vanilla Android 12 versus Samsung's One UI, latest version of that. But let's go to Wikipedia on both. Alright, Techies. Got on the same Wikipedia page, 120 Hz OLED versus 60 Hz OLED. And let's see if we get the same results as between the Pixel 6 Pro and the Pixel 6a when comparing the Pixel 6a and the A53. Let's do some scrolling here. So really similar results, Techies. So I think 120 Hz is 120 Hz. Yes, this phone definitely feels a little bit more laggy than the Pixel 6a for a multitude of reasons. But 120 Hz is 120 Hz. Yeah, there you have it, Techies. So definitely I'm seeing that the 120 Hz display on the A53 definitely does make a big difference. If someone has never seen 60 versus 120 Hz, they won't know the difference. However, most of us techies who have used or seen 120 Hz displays going back to 60, it's definitely a little bit jarring on the eyes. It's definitely noticeable. Does it affect the phone overall? It does, not massively. Since these phones are the same price as well, is that a big deciding factor? You tell me, techies. To me, it would be. However, seeing that the Pixel 6a has a overall inferior display to the A53, inaccurate. I mean, in almost every test we can see that they are pretty consistent. Yeah, and most scrolling, you can definitely tell that the A53 is definitely a lot smoother, and that has nothing to do with the skin of Android or the processor. That's purely the 120 Hz display, techies. So, with that being said, that's episode 3 of the controversy behind the Pixel 6a. 60 versus 120 Hz, same price phones. Deciding factor, I would say yes. That's definitely in favor of the A53. Is it a deal breaker? Definitely no. At this price point, a lot of consumers are not going to be too picky about those kind of things. Most are looking for devices around this price point. They don't even care or know what 120 Hz displays are. So with that being said, I would say that it is completely overblown to say that this has a low quality, poor, laggy 60 Hz display, or say because this is a better processor than the A53 that the 120 Hz display is offset anyway. I wouldn't say so. So, techies, that's episode number 3. Talking about the 60 Hz display and display quality overall of these phones. Next video, I'm going to be talking about the performance of these phones. Stay tuned for that.